A warmly welcome to all of you being here at the Gotland's Soldiers Home, as well as to you following this seminar online. Swedish Soldiers Homes Association is pleased to organize this seminar together with the Swedish Veterans Federation. My name is Andreas Philipsen, and I'm standing here with Jonas Alberoth, board member of Swedish Veteran Federations and with many years of experience from the Folke Bernadotte Academy as well as from the UN. Jonas will moderate this afternoon second seminar on the theme The Veteran, an essential resource for the reconstruction of a war-torn society. Before we start, I would like to give you some short safety information. We have two evacuation routes, the main entrance facing Klintorget and the second one, an exit through the door located between the pink and grey building leading onto Östra Tullgränd. And one final practical note, should you notice the smell of smoke shortly before the panel discussion concludes, there is no need for concern. It's mostly likely Peter from the Gotland Veteran Association firing up the barbecue in preparation for this evening mingling, which you all are warmly invited to attend. With that said, once again, a warmly welcome. And now I'm pleased to hand over to you, Jonas.
Thank you, Andreas, and a literary warm welcome from me as well to all of you who are seated here in the main auditorium. We have a number of participants also in the tent auditorium outside and quite a few followers all online. All of you are warmly welcome. This day at Soldathemmet in Visby will end with a seminar on a very grave and important topic. The war in Ukraine. The combatant heroes and veterans of Ukraine, and how Ukraine relates to, takes care of, supports and honors its veterans. We will also discuss how Ukraine and Sweden are cooperating on the full spectrum of veteran affairs, what we can learn from each other, and how these experiences can inform and underpin Sweden's current historic enforced rebuilding of our total defense, including veteran policies and activities. The heading of the seminar is The Veteran, an essential resource for the reconstruction of a war-torn society. Our time frame is from now until approximately 1730. The Soldathemsförbundet and Soldathemmet here in Visby is the best possible partner one can imagine. Its cooperative mindset, its role in the Swedish civil society system, its network, and this eminent venue. Soldathemsförbundet is a key component in the Swedish veterans' infrastructure, consisting of both government functions and civil society organizations. And they have an important direct role to support Ukrainian veterans as well. The Swedish Veterans Federation that I represent, together with my president, Mr. Mats Ström, and other colleagues who are here, we have also a local veterans association here on Gotland, and they are represented in the tent just outside. And I'm also very happy to see my colleagues from the Swedish Women International Association for Veterans, and you are represented strongly this time in Almedalen. I also have my colleague from our office in Stockholm who is responsible for relations with our local veterans federation associations, Miss Christine Buschman. Christine, are you outside? Then you are humbly asked to wave to the audience there. Thank you. And we are also accompanied by a few of our federation board members here in Almedalen. A few words on the design of the seminar. It is an extended seminar, as you have seen in the program, for an extensive topic. We will have some participants coming and going in order to be able to include more voices and more perspectives. Our foundation of the seminar will be a standing panel consisting of partner organizations from Ukraine and Ukraine's ambassador to Sweden. And quite appropriately, you're also equipped with the Ukrainian flag on your table. The panel will be able to pick up on and respond to issues raised by our rotating panel members. And you will have an opportunity to briefly present yourself just with name and organizational affiliation as you start your initial intervention. And that is just in the interest of time, since there will be quite a few speakers. We do have a battery of prepared supportive questions that we have discussed with our participants, and we will pick up on a few of those, but we will also try to have a genuine Almedalen dialogue that will be interactive, including with the audience, and accumulative. And in the Almedalen spirit, the seminar will be conducted on a first name basis. I hope that is okay, Your Excellency. Thank you. And we do encourage active involvement. There will not be time for a Q&A session towards the end, mainly because some of our rotating panel participants have left by then. Let us set a few important things straight already from the beginning. Sometimes there are misunderstandings and unwarranted caution and concerns when it comes to ongoing wars and armed conflicts. This is not such a case. It is not complex, it is not sensitive, it is a crystal clear tragedy. It is not, and mark my words, a full-scale invasion. It is an invasion attempt that to a large degree failed due to defiant, courageous and heroic Ukrainian self-defense. It is a cause of a bullying neighbor. It is the case of the illegal annexation of Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine already 12 years ago. And it is the case of the full-scale attack and the blatant breach of international law on 24 February 2022. It is a bottomless trauma. We are all Ukrainians. I have an initial question for the panel that you may divide between you. We have a reasonably good idea, but I will ask you to bring us closer to the realities in Ukraine. Who are the veterans? Is there an estimate on their current numbers? And what are their primary needs and concerns? Who would like to pick up on that initially?
I can.
Please.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. So my name is Svetlana Zelishuk. I'm ambassador here in Sweden since September 2025, so 9 months. They told me you should say that you're a new ambassador until 1 year, and then you're an old ambassador. I'm still a new ambassador. So veterans. First question before, you said, who are they, right?
Yeah.
So answering that question, maybe I'll ask you one question. Do you know what the etymology of the word veteran, where it's coming from? What's the meaning of this, the core meaning of this word?
Wow, please inform us.
No one. So I looked it up, and apparently it is coming from Latin, and it means old, experienced person. Well, the soldier, old, experienced soldier. And when I looked it up before I was coming here, I was just wondering. It struck me that in my country, of course, a lot of veterans are not old at all. Yes, they experienced, but many of them really boys, young people. This full-scale invasion came to our land, and the whole nation stood up to fight in this war. It was not only the army that started fighting. You have this doctrine about total defense, right? The doctrine that teaches everyone that it's not the army that fights the war, but the whole society fights the war. So we kind of practiced it. We went into that stage without the theory, in a way, unfortunately. So coming to answering your question, in my country, almost 2 million people are veterans today, and it is 5% of the whole population. As of the end of 2005, it's 155,000 people that have also disabilities connected to the experience in war, with the battle experience. So imagine it's every fifth person is affected, and of course it's a very big number, because, as I've said, the whole nation fights this war. When it comes to first needs, well, the government clearly understands that it's a very important group of our society. And first and foremost, we want to make sure that these people are appreciated, that they feel gratitude, that they have all of the support they need on the social level, on the healthcare level, but also they are fully integrated into the society as full-fledged members of the society, meaning having education if they want, meaning having support if they need, and having, of course, very important, jobs. So I also wanted to tell you that we have the whole Ministry of Veterans, because the government understands that this policy is so important that we need a particularly devoted institution that is working with the veterans, that are developing the policies. So they were developed since the beginning of the war, and it started in 2014. Not the full-scale invasion was 2022, but the war started in 2014. So it developed all kind of range of policies, institutional support, possibilities to support the veterans. And I won't go into the details right now, because I'm sure that other speakers will help to develop it. But I wanted to mention that we keep on developing as we speak, because also the nature of the war changes, the scale of the veterans also changing, the length of the war. No one even thought that it can last for so long. So also institutions adapt, facing all these new challenges that emerge in front of us.
Thank you. And please add to this picture. Bring us closer to the realities and close to who the veterans actually are, because I suppose they come from all aspects of society.
So I will tell you actually maybe 3 stories, and it will give you an understanding who they are. Just now, 30 minutes ago, I met a colleague. Well, a former colleague. He is fighting in the 3rd Assault Brigade, a military. He approached me and he said, "Svetlana, do you remember me?"
Oh.
And I said, "Yes, vaguely." And he reminded me that he was actually a diplomat working in the Ministry for Foreign Affairs since 2014 or even before. He was working in the Strasbourg as a diplomat at the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. I was member of parliament, so we were collaborating on that platform. And when the war started, the full-scale invasion started in 2022, he was working very closely with our Minister for Foreign Affairs. And I asked him, "Dmytro, so how come you were in army?" He said, "I volunteered, I mobilized." Of course, he was very valuable diplomat, very close working with the minister, but he couldn't see other way. So he went to the front line. And he was in worst battles ever, wondering whether he will survive. So I asked, "Dmytro, what do you think about veteran policies?" And he told me, because I was coming to your panel, and he said, "Well, if there is one thing to coin the way we should approach the policy, it's, I would say it in one sentence," he said, "to ensure a proper human life for a former soldier." So that's one sentence that he asked me to tell you. There are other two veterans that I met here at Al Madalen. One of them is, once again, teacher of history from Mykolaiv region, a region where my father is coming from. And when the war started 2014, he self-mobilized. Unfortunately, he lost two of his hands and his sight. He doesn't see with one eye. But yesterday we were cooking borscht for many of the guests that came to visit us, including Swedish Minister of Europe, Jessica Rosenkrantz. And he was helping me to cook the borscht with the prosthesis. Say it again.
I think we got this, prosthesis.
Prosthesis, yes, exactly. So he was cutting the herbs, serving food, you know, he fully participating in this, being very smiley, joking more than anyone else. So with that little story, he was giving us more support than we could have supported him, to be honest. That's kind of a veteran he is. And another guy, a very young boy, I asked him, who were you in your normal life? And he said, I was a conductor, music conductor. He is coming from Vinnytsia. And unfortunately, he lost two of his legs. Victor, the first guy was called Alexander. So Victor lost his two legs. But he never gave up. He found his new purpose. He has a small little boy. He married after all the wounds and injuries. And he is now working as a volunteer. He is now helping the army. He is properly, integrated and helping to win this war. So these are the stories about veterans. And maybe I'll conclude with this when you ask me like who they are. Very often when you look at people in uniforms, you are sitting in front of us. So we look at you. What do you think? These uniforms create a certain distance between civilian and an army. It's like, that's them. They are trained, they understand what it is about. In Ukrainian context, that was not the case. I mean, our army, my army, these are people they were teachers of the history, they were music conductors, they were sportsmen, they were diplomats, they were everyone else. These are just people like you, like us, like me. So when you think about it from that perspective, and you think that also this word veteran, it sounds also quite like a special group that is somehow also distantly, doesn't concern you immediately. But in my country, that is not the case. Everyone understands what does it mean because so many people went to fight this war. So answering your question, who is the veteran? Could be any one of us in Ukrainian society. And no one could have, many people haven't been, most of veterans haven't been trained to be soldiers. But then when the war came, they didn't ask for your graduation diploma. There was no choice. But in the end, it was a choice of my nation to fight and, to struggle to defend our sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Those are both gripping and clarifying stories. And I suppose flowing from the saying, we are all Ukrainians, you may say we are all potential veterans. And it also very much sounds like the total defense of Ukraine with a reference to Sweden's total defense. Thank you so much. And would you like to add a couple of strokes of the brush to this image as well? And we must ensure now, we cherish and respect your flag, but it can't cover you during the seminar.
What do we do? Come closer to me,
I was trying to find the spot. Better. Yeah, so... just a short story.
And don't forget to present yourself just very briefly.
I'm Alexandra Sorokoput. I have PhD in political science and I'm used to be a professor at the university. I'm also used to be a colleague from UN, not anymore. Now I'm devoted to the veteran projects and veteran cases and see a lot of sense of doing it till the war is going on. And I'm the leader of YMCA Lviv, and we run two big veteran, but nice veteran initiatives. One is stories of warriors, stories of defenders. We collect short stories from the front line, from our friends. We publish them, we make audio books out of them. And the key topic for all the stories is have life, a miracle of a life, winning over death on the front line. So this is what we do. And a second initiative is Titans Under Sails, because, answering your questions, who are veterans? We figure out, I agree with Svetlana, it's young people, it's not only young people, it's young people who have to use prosthetics for the rest of their lives, or they cannot see for the rest of their lives, or they have other beautiful things they have to adjust. Facing that, knowing they are young people, we created this initiative, Titans Under Sails. We are bringing them to sail to Europe with civilians to reintegrate. So this would be and coming back to the answer, I think the concept, the noun of veteran, changed in 2014, when we were at the Revolution of Dignity, and when we are standing there, and we know the snipers are on rooftops, and probably Svetlana remember we were issuing these jackets to the medics and some jackets to the media, because we are naive enough thinking that if sniper would see a medic, they wouldn't shoot. And the next night, we are evacuating people, and I'm standing there with my students, and they're asking, and who are the rest? Who are the ones who didn't get the jacket? Who are we now? And no military training, no understanding how to evacuate, no knowing what tourniquet is, and now we all do. And this is coming to the big question in Europe, who are veterans, right?
And you keep adding meaning to the term veteran, ranging from its etymology up until current-day realities. And Katerina, we would like to share your initial perspective as well before we proceed. And as you have already detected in the Almedalen spirit, there is a bit of improvisation. A battery ran out, speakers are joining us, and I bet you it's the only seminar among the 3,200 seminars in Almedalen this year where we have a rotating speaker being the archbishop of a country. And sir, we have agreed that our Ukrainian guest will be standing here as a foundation panel, and then we will rotate our Swedish participants in order to investigate these issues from complementary perspective. We hope that's in agreement with your preferences, sir. Thank you.
And it's good that Ukrainians are strong so they can stand all 1.5 hours. And thank you for giving a word. My name is Katerina Serdyuk. I'm the co-founder of Repower Foundation, and a bit of not an opposite, but a bit of a pre-story to what my colleagues have shared, because we are taking care of active...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just pause.
Все гаразд? No? Просто не попередили, да? Все окей, все окей.
Just breathe. And
this is how war has started for me.
It is.
With the fire jets flying over the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Але можливо це так, Катерина. Можливо, ви неправильно полетіли.
Yeah, no, but it's good to hear the sound of a Swedish Gripen. Soon it's going to be over Ukraine, yeah?
It is the sound of the Swedish Air Force and the Griffin, soon to be the Ukrainian Griffin, mind you.
Yes.
And they are flying above our heads for peace. But I cannot imagine, and thank you for being open with your emotions. I cannot imagine a stronger embodiment of the torture of war and how it affects us.
Yeah, you just definitely saw, everything that we're speaking about, the trauma and how it affects our body, and there is no cognitive meaning before your body reacts first. And we're working with active military. We bring them to Sweden for recovery, psychological recovery trips. And I think when it comes to veteran, we work in preventing. We make sure that the difficult psychological disorders don't have a possibility to develop. And this is why when it comes to veteran, we do have active soldiers who are considered as a veterans. This is absolutely novel type of the soldiers who are at the same time had the experience from 2014 and they now continue serving and gaining another understanding. So these are the people who are highly educated, very endurable, very intelligent, has a leadership feeling, and they understand how to make sure that people listen and go for them. So these are the people that actually can be built a stable economy. These are the people who can run good politics and understand the human rights, because they are the ones who understand what are we fighting for and also the price that people are given. So I would say that, just adding a little bit, that are people who we can rely on the future also when it comes to rebuilding Ukraine and building the future that would unite Ukraine and Europe together, because we are having the same values and the same understanding of the right things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonas.
And this gives us a point of departure, bringing together perspectives and experiences. And there are quite a few veterans also in the audience with experiences from other continents and part of the world. And we will hear more about that as we go along. It may sound a bit technical now and out of timing, but it's still important for us to learn. And Ambassador, can you briefly shed light on what underpins Ukrainian work on Veterans Affairs? What kind of policies? Do you have a veteran strategy that we are very proud of, that was quite recently adopted for the first time in Sweden, but with a focus on international veterans? So if you can just shed a little bit of light of the policy underpinning of Ukraine's work with veterans.
Yes. Thank you for this question. So, in fact, we have a national strategy on veteran policy, which is dated by the end of 2030. And we developed a number of policies that can help integrate the veterans into normal life. So I will start with this. We have this amazing app. It's called DIA. Everyone,
Yeah.
I have it. It's a digital platform where you very easily get all kind of services between citizen and Ukrainian government, right? So we created a special services for the veterans that they can get, approximately 10 services that they can get through this digital app. So all kind of documents, for example, some access to even sport facility, to healthcare facility. So you can get it without filling in any kind of form, going to any institution, needing any kind of signature from some ministry or government or whatever. So it's very easy. You take your phone, you press the button, and you've got the service as a veteran, which is immediately needed. Secondly, we created a policy of healthcare, which is more complicated because very often veterans need a long-term medical rehabilitation, so they need some access to certain facilities. So this is another area that government worked in order to provide all the access to the facilities. And unfortunately, I have to say that, of course, the demand is much bigger than the possibilities, and our healthcare system is struggling to accommodate all the demands we have from the veterans. And this is where civil society organizations are playing such an important role. I mean, Repower, creating this platform for to get some rehabilitation for medical veterans. This is amazing. I've seen their eyes before your rehabilitation and after your programs, and these are totally different people, you know. So this is how it works. Also, there are a few other platforms that provides access for basically for jobs. For example, government facilitated a dialogue with companies, with business, who signed some memorandum as a veteran-friendly kind of policy, and it is promoted policy that business hire veterans. So our government made some comparison of the professions in a way that some veterans with certain experience can do some other professions that are there on the market, you know. So the government helps through this platform to facilitate the search for job and for business to hire those people also easier. So there is the dialogue between business and veterans. And it's also extremely helpful because very often business can be, first of all, you know, ignorant.
Or stigmatized.
Intimidated. Like, how do you deal with it, you know, when people need the psychological rehabilitation, physical rehabilitation? How do we build the infrastructure, physical infrastructure for people to feel, to be dignified, you know, to do your job with dignity and to have respect from the colleagues? So government helps business to study it, to learn it, and then to facilitate this dialogue between veterans and business. So it's also very good. Another platform that government provided is access to some loans, special loans for the veterans to start their own business if they want. If they want to be a private entrepreneur, there are some very preferable loans that they can take and start their own business. And also there are a few other important things like housing. You know that 20% of our territory is occupied. Many soldiers who went to fight, very often they were people from those territories that are now occupied or very close to the occupied areas. And that is why many veterans, many soldiers lost their houses. So the government also creates a possibility for veterans to get free housing or some loans to purchase their own houses, those who have lost them. There are some other things like education, support to the family of the veterans that, once again, the Ministry of Veterans are working on. And they have, unfortunately, a lot of work.
Thank you. And can I ask our professional technical team to give me a thumbs up when Emma from the Folke Bernadotte Academy has arrived? Just so I'm aware of that. But a thumbs up when she's here. And this is perhaps a tough question. But with our experiences during the last 8 centuries, actually, since the United Nations was established, Swedish veterans are an asset, of course, for the country, and we want to re-engage them in new assignments, building on their previous experiences. But in the Ukrainian current context, that is a very different matter. So how much emphasis is put on making it possible for veterans to return to active duty and the front line?
Yeah, maybe I can pick up on that because, as I said, we work a lot with active military, but I would say 30% of them has been in combat actions before, since 2014, and they have received a status of the veteran, and they were returned back to the service. And I think one of the key components for that, it is that every unit now in Ukraine is trying to build good support system. So they provide knowledge, they provide better training, and they also now start to be mandatory psychological recovery. And this is something that we should learn, that we cannot start to heal the trauma, we have to prevent it. And we cannot wait until the service is done to do that job. No. So what now our military, our armed forces, together with society and organizations that are helping, they're trying to address the needs while it's going. It is a bit complicated, I must say, because at the same time you are exposed to the trauma and then you have to go back while the stress is there. And you have to build this resilience, and it would be extremely great if you can build the system before the crisis come. And I think this is what Sweden can take as a lesson. How can we start building the system before you think it's needed? Because in Ukraine, the resilience perhaps came from historical memory, from our mentality, but not necessarily from the system. And I think now, while our military units and separate units have understood that, we see that it is based on a personal responsibility and more on a certain commanders rather than on a general systematic level. But I'm sure that when we are moving from the down to top, it will apparently end up in this way. Because when we, for example, started our work, we had to really advocate for that. We really had to came to army and say, guys, we need to take care of our people. We need to make sure that they recovered. Please let us borrow them for 14 days in Sweden. We promise we'll return them feeling motivated and more strength. And we proved that. And now there is a trust. So I think if we take a combination between personal projects, personal motivations, and if you do believe in your idea, you can push it for and try to do that the pilot way within your capacity, and then it will come higher, and then the system will pick it up.
That was a very helpful summary, thank you. We've touched the surface at least. It is a big topic. And we are now approaching a point where I will ask our first rotating panel member to join us. And as you make your way, Mats, you can come up. And I would just like to insert something that for me is very important to share with our audience here in Visby and beyond on the internet, and for it to be available for people. This is most likely well known to you, but when it comes to Ukraine and international operations and Ukraine's contribution to international peace and security, Ukraine was actually in its own right as a country before it was absorbed by the Soviet Union on the UN Security Council, when it consisted merely of 10 members, the permanent members and 5 elected members. And Ukraine was on the UN Security Council in May 1948, when the UN took the historic decision to launch its first peace operation and to send out its first official mediator. Both Ukraine and Syria was part of that historic decision. And this also underlines the importance of institutionalizing cooperation. We never know what will happen in the future. We never know which country will be in need, but you were part of that. And then I draw a line a couple of decades further ahead in time. And Ukraine was also the country, through your Ministry of Defense and through the then Ukrainian Veterans Federation, that proposed to the international community and the UN that we should establish the International Day of UN Peacekeepers, what we in Sweden call the Veterans Day, which is today a national flag day and a state ceremony in Sweden and in many, many others across the countries across the world. That was a Ukrainian initiative. So thanks to you, on the 29th of May, we celebrate and highlight the important work of all international veterans fighting wars, being engaged in peace operations. And that was because on that day, the UN deployed Count Folke Bernadotte of Sweden as its first mediator. And with this as a transition, Mats, we've picked up on a lot of important building blocks on how Ukraine has organized itself. In Sweden, we have a tight cooperation between government agencies, including the Swedish Armed Forces and civil society organizations. There are several strengths with that cooperation. There might also be weaknesses. What is your estimate? And don't forget to present yourself.
Thank you. Testing. Yeah, it works. Okay, my name is Mats. I'm the head of Veterans Affairs, and as you can see, I'm not here undercover. And I hope it's not the distance between us because of the uniform. It's okay? Thank you. I think I'd like to start with thank you for the invitation, and also very honored to be here with you. And also like to thank you for being the first line of defense of Europe, not only the soldiers, family, and the Ukrainian people. So thank you so much. So, we had a long history of fighting outside Sweden. So actually, we were the aggressors from the Northern Europe. We even went to Poltava. And about 210 years ago, I think, we lost our last battle. And then we returned to the mothership and started to build our welfare system. And sometimes we joke with Swedes, we always have a system, right? We have a system for everything. But our timeline as Veterans Affairs starts 1948 with our first mission. And since then, we had about 75,000 Swedes served in international missions. But if in comparison with you, we had the luxury to send out our colleagues on 6 months to another missions, and then our family were safe back home, and we had the luxury to go home again. So we are kind of rotating system. And we are learning as we fight, so to speak. We have been in many missions during these years. And it started with the Balkans, actually, in the 90s, when we found out that we didn't take so good care of our veterans. And most of the I see some veterans here in the audience as well. I think you can agree that we were not so good in taking care of the veterans. But since the 90s, when our time in the Balkans, and especially our time in Afghanistan, we start to build this kind of system. And we have this kind of law from 2010 that the armed forces have to do this before, during, and after. So we work with great progress. And you mentioned the Swedish veteran strategy as well. So it's from our politicians. So we are on the move, so to speak. But again, very humble to share whatever we can share. We love to share. Thank you.
And you gave us a number, the approximate number of military veterans, and then we have several so-called deploying civilian government agencies in the Swedish system as well, and they have been operational since 1998 in that context. But we also have to add, of course, the immediate family, the friends, and all of those that are affected by the deployment of an individual, a mother or a father. And Mats, what role, what relations do you have also to organizations focusing on next of kin, family members, and those are affected? Because if we calculate it in that way, it's almost 800,000 Swedes that are directly affected of our contribution to international peace and security.
Yeah, and one part of our work with the veterans is taking care of the families, spouses, whatever you can mention, but also our NGOs, as we can see, and all other good other people that work with supporting the veterans. So yes, it's no man is an island. I know for myself, you never go alone on a mission. You need support from Sweden, my country, my family, etc., and all the NGOs as well. So this is the kind of system I talked to you about earlier. We have a system with all the supporting organizations, and of course, the armed forces, the Swedish welfare system, etc. It comes again.
And I will ask you another question. Explain to my colleague Emma from the Folke Bernadotte Academy that we are rotating our Swedish panel members, and we have a foundation of our friends and colleagues from the Ukraine at the podium. And we are very much looking forward to share your experiences and your good work in Ukraine as well in just a few minutes. And Mats, what are the next important steps when it comes to developing Sweden's Veterans Affairs work, including perhaps an update of our veteran strategy? And this also includes the implications that Sweden's NATO membership has had on the issue. You have been in close dialogue with within the Swedish Armed Forces and with the Ministry on Defense of a new term referring to the etymology of veteran ambassador. You have talked about how do we define this? Who is a veteran and who is not? How is that work proceeding and what are the next steps? And when, or as our colleague here is answering the question, please, if there is anything that you would like to ask or chip in or reflect on based on Mats' presentation, so feel free to do so, please.
Yeah, for us, for a long time, we had our so-called utlandsveteraner, veterans that's been on international missions. That was, that's my responsibility. But since more or less we left Afghanistan, Mali, we also need another term of the veterans. They could be deployed here in Sweden. They could be deployed training your forces in Ukraine, in Poland, in England, or whatever. So we're now working with defining the new veteran. It's not only going to Cyprus or Mali or whatever. So we need to have a new law or legislation for also take care of all the deployments we do right now. So we're in the middle of that. And including talking about civilian authorities, I'll leave that to you.
No, and those worlds are very close to each other, but with different foundational needs. And civilian veterans are often very well anchored on the labor market, and they often return to their life and being integrated through that normality. We have different needs in terms of civilian deployments being longer, and that civilians often stay embedded in the local society as opposed to military veterans that stay within their camps or military headquarters. But my colleague will shed more light on that later on. And any thoughts from your perspective when you have listened to the head of Swedish Veterans Affairs before we ask him to sit down again? Please.
I have a question. It's related to our experience back in 2014 when we had the first attack. We had many Ukrainians volunteer to fight, and they were no military. They were called volunteers. Till the moment they couldn't be called volunteers anymore, because it's very strange to have a volunteer making all the military duties on the front line, right, and organizing everything. But it would need to know basis. Now we have Swedish volunteers fighting for us. So my question is how the process of recognizing their war experience back here in Sweden is going on.
Yeah, we're doing our best, but if they have been employed by the armed forces, they have to leave the armed forces because you can't serve in two armies at the same time. So we support that they can go and they are welcome back to the armed forces. So because they have a lot of experience since war that we would like to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your important contribution. And you are rushing back to the mainland immediately after this seminar. Now I would like to invite the Archbishop to the podium, Martin Modeus.
Hello.
And
Thank you. Thank you.
you have often spoken about the importance of preserving our humanity in times of war, when violence, fear, and dehumanization risk becomes gradually normalized. From your perspective, what does prolonged war do to individuals and societies? And what can institutions such as the Church contribute with in helping people maintaining dignity, hope, and a sense of meaning during armed conflict?
That's a very wide question. It covers almost the whole existential field. And if I can start in the question of what war and a prolonged war does to society, it's obvious that there are very different perspectives in that. I mean, the war is doing some things in a moral way with Ukraine, but it is doing something completely different to the Russian state. The Russian state should feel moral shame, but you have moral pride in a good sense, because you are defending a good thing against an aggressor. And of course that does very different things with the individual that were involved in that. It doesn't in this very time, and it will do it in in the coming times, when the war is over and when you have to look back, who was I and what was my role in what happened? And that creates the need of different kinds of healing processes. And I must say that I'm impressed when I hear your stories about how you work with the healing, the moral, the psychological and the spiritual on time, going on. And I hear your advice to try to create structures for coping with that in advance. And I think that is very, very important. And it is important for us, especially to listen to you, because you can see what might happen to us and give us your ideas about what is important.
Thank you. And your latest book, and that is quite a recent book, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It still smells from the printing.
There it is. And when was it released?
Wednesday, I think.
On Wednesday, you see.
I haven't read it myself.
So we have a little sneak launch as well. And please share the title of the book.
The title it doesn't have a title in English. Peace Theology in the Shadow of War.
Thank you. And if I'm now read up enough, in the book you explore how communities and institutions can help sustain precisely that, human dignity and social cohesion in crisis. And looking at Ukraine today, what experiences, what reflections, what insights are you able to share with your opposite number, the Ukrainian church? And this is a potentially sensitive issue, but since you spoke in such straightforward and strong language as well, how on earth is it possible for the Church of Russia to actively support its dictatorship and the war effort?
Yes, and thank you for raising that question, because I would gladly repeat it now. It's completely impossible, as I understand it, for a Christian theologian to take the position that Patriarch Kirill has done. It's completely impossible.
Yeah. And is it possible to pick up on one or two insights from your book that could be helpful in this context as well?
Yes, one of the main lines is to, as you are going into a situation close to war, to keep having the focus on peace. And the reason for me to say that is the experiences from the road into the First World War, when war was romantic. It was hallowed as something that was exciting and to show a way that you could show how much of a man you were. We don't have that in Sweden, but I think that is something that we shall guard and keep. So reminding ourselves all the time that what we are doing in this situation, we are doing for the sake of peace.
Yes.
When we are working with a civil society, we are doing it for the sake of peace. When we are creating a better army and a better air force, we are doing it because we want peace. When we are supporting you, we are doing it because we want peace to return, peace to Ukraine and peace for Europe. So that is a perspective. And you asked for some, so I gave you one more.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the value and dignity of human beings. To train ourselves in seeing the dignity of other people, among ourselves, but also among the people that we understand as our enemies, because there will come a day when we will meet them as human beings, because there is always an end to war, and there will always come something afterwards. And I understand completely that this might, on the battlefield, be a completely impossible task to remain in. But we can at least in advance train us as much as possible, so there is more for the healing process to grip into in the next stage.
I am very grateful that we included this important dimension in our discussions. And I also thank you for your encouraging words and thoughts. And Emma, you may wish to prepare yourself. In the meantime, is there anything you would like to pick up on that you just heard? We don't want to exhaust things, but if there is something in the back of your head that popped up that you would like to ask or share with the Archbishop while he's on stage.
Just maybe to add that there are many military chaplains working at the front line, and very often they have sort of a shortcut to the heart and souls of our military. And I think not to ask, but maybe to encourage to prepare not only society, but your colleagues to be able to answer very hard questions about existence, about sense of purpose, and the conflict that is created at the front line between life and death, and my place between all of that.
Of course, that those questions will be burning in there. So that's what the chaplainship is training for. But thank you for reminding us. It's important. So.
Thank you so much for your contribution. I must confess it feels a bit awkward because when you visit a church, someone way up there, a bishop or a priest tells you when to sit and when to stand. And now I got the privilege to ask the archbishops to sit down. But again, we are very grateful. And the bookstores in Visby are still open for 45 minutes after we have concluded this seminar. I'm just saying that. And Emma, if you would be kind enough to join us on stage. And I'm very happy that we are able now also to expand our discussion to what the Swedish civilian government agency is doing. Sometimes we tend to focus on the obvious, the military, and the military is to a high degree a foundation when it comes to the wider Swedish Veterans Society, because they are many in numbers and they have had this role for a long period of time. But the Folke Bernadotte Academy has a key coordinating role, and it's also underpinned in an interesting way. And I would really like to learn from you how we have organized our work, what we are focusing on, and perhaps a couple of examples of key results that we have achieved. And I should say within brackets that already in 2005, the Folke Bernadotte Academy, which is Sweden's government agency for peace, security and development, acquired world-leading competence on disarmament, demobilization and reintegration, what is in the international terminology abbreviated as DDR. In 2016, we established a formal relationship between the Folke Bernadotte Academy and the Swedish Veterans Federation, and that has also been a component in our cooperation. But Emma, how are we organizing ourselves? What is the role of the Folke Bernadotte Academy, and which key results have we achieved?
Thank you, Jonas, and thank you for inviting me to this panel. So thank you for the question. And as you mentioned, Folke Bernadotte Academy is a civilian agency, and there are several aspects to the veteran reintegration that's not included in the military aspect. So we focus on mainly like four things. And one is to build the Swedish experience and the FBA experience about combatants, veterans, and their family members and their needs. And the second one is that we establish cooperation with different agencies. As we know, the veterans reintegration spans over many different areas. It's a whole of society approach, whole of governance approach. So we work with Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Agriculture, Veterans Affairs, Ministry of Defense, Interior Affairs. We also include this bottom-up dialogue, and that is part of how we normally work in the civilian part. You know, we listen to the local people, the regional, and then we feed that up to the national level. And since we do work with the different agencies, we can feed that up directly and have this sort of, instead of telling people to work with the whole of governance approach, we do it ourselves. And we're also co-leading a donor group in Kyiv together with the UK, where we channel the donor support to Ukraine so that Ukraine doesn't need to do that as well. And besides, we do also have this Team Sweden initiative, where we as FBA are hosting that. And it's between different Swedish agencies, civil organizations, private sector. And that is also one way of collecting the Swedish report and framing it and making sure that we have one vision and one point of contact also for the Ukrainian partners.
And what are the main challenges working in that environment and also being able to coordinate other Swedish government agencies that are at least semi-independent of the government and they have their own tasks? How is Team Sweden functioning?
Team Sweden is functioning well. We're currently in the phase where we have started. We do have meetings together. And what we see as the next steps are to move from coordination to concrete collaboration, I would say. Joint efforts across different sectors, co-hosted events, for example, workshops, policy dialogues, also contribution to government, decision-making, and strategic direction. And we do hope that this Team Sweden will become a platform for innovation and policy discussions, etc. But as for the challenges, you asked me as well. And I would say that the biggest challenge is the scale and the complexity of the veterans reintegration at the national level, because we do need to keep the national level in mind, but also maintaining the individual and the veteran local perspective in mind at the same time. There is also a risk of this fragmentation and duplication. There are so many initiatives, Swedish and international ones, and we do need to keep focused and trust each other in the process to make sure that we don't duplicate. Also, time horizon. Reintegration is a long process, but the donors and the actual attention right now is an instant need. And also the constant challenge also to maintain a nuanced narrative about veterans, that it's veteran is not just a similar group, but there are a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, experiences, war injuries, visible, non-visible.
Thank you. And also something that may be interesting. So what kind of physical presence do we have in Ukraine since there is a war going on?
Yes, thank you. So we do have two colleagues working at the embassy in Kyiv full-time. And then we also travel back and forth a lot. We do have a lot of MOUs as well with different organizations. We have several working strands. Also, once again, to cover the sort of whole of governance perspective, we do work on social cohesion, hybrid threats and resilience, where also veterans, once again, is unfortunately relevant, EU accession. And so we do have different MOUs with different partner organizations within all these different strands.
And the work is
seconded staff.
And seconded staff as well as an extra instrument. And this is founded in what we call a strategy in the Swedish system.
Correct.
And for how long does that run?
Good question. I would say 2027. So and then we do have a Ukrainian strategy, and then we have another strategy that's bigger and where we also can work with these questions, but from another angle. And we always collaborate with different units at the agency, depending on the needs of the partners in the country. So in this case, we work, as you mentioned, with the DDR colleagues that are not part of the Ukraine unit specifically, but we bring in those experts as well. And Emma, this is Almedalen, and everything is off the record. And if now you are deeply involved in this and committed to it, and it is a very meaningful task that we have been given by the government. So if you could make a wish, what would you ask for the government
in relation to our assignment? How can that be boosted, strengthened, widened, complemented in order for you to fulfill your objectives?
Oh, wow. I would say first, more resources. and also I would wish for actually some more stability. But that's also the ups and downs with democracy, that it can shift. And that can be difficult sometimes, I think, for us and for our partners as well, that the support, both the financial and the human resources support can vary over time. And that's always a challenge, which makes it's difficult for us to promise things.
wise answer. And is there anything here, any angle, any aspect of what Emma has shared that you would like to bounce or reflect on?
Maybe a question: how do you still keep yourself relevant when it comes to such a dynamic environment as Ukraine? Because we do know that Sweden has a great strategy and a vision, but how can we make sure that we hear grassroots, we hear local needs, and we understand the complexity of veterans? And again, it's not the same people anymore. So how do you stay engaged and not coming with the system and trying to feed it, but instead updating on the go?
Thank you. That is a fantastic question, and I think it's something that we discuss often. And what we've seen is actually that our partner organizations are key. So we are, sometimes it can feel a bit stiff. We're in Stockholm at an office. We're a traveling agency, as we say. So I go to Ukraine, my colleagues go to Ukraine, and all the other countries that we work with. But I couldn't do anything without our partner organizations. So that is key, and they are the ones, always. They know the context, they know the needs, and we just try to adapt and bring in what they need in that moment, and adapt our support after that. So, thank you. So I would say, yeah.
And Emma, warm thanks for making the picture that we are trying to co-create complete, and also adding this important perspective. There may be time for a little bit of interaction, but now we will actually exchange rotating speakers. So thank you very much. Isn't it? Isn't it? We kind of like it. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll stay in the audience.
And I will invite my dear colleague, the president of the Swedish Veterans Federation, to the stage. Retired Brigadier Mats Ström, who I had the pleasure of serving with in international missions on 2 occasions. And we have a core question that was also part of the dialogue with the three of you. And Mats, this is something which is very close to the heart of our activity, and this has to do with the following. Veterans, yes, it's a large collective that we need to recognize their efforts. We need to support them in different ways, but they are also the bearers of significant competence. And that significant competence is an important building block in our societies to develop, to rebuild a country, but also in the current affairs of a country like Sweden. And in the Swedish veteran strategy, we have 4 pillars, and one of those pillars is competence. How do we make better use of the competence accumulated by veterans over time? And it's so easy for a society and its representatives to just say that, oh, the competence of the veterans, we will draw on the competence of the veterans. But how do we do that in practice in a way which is felt by the veterans and made useful in the society? And if that is okay as a point of departure, Mats, please ponder on that from your perspective as well, because then we would return to the realities in Ukraine and also learn from you how you regard and make use of the competence of the enormous veterans collective in your country. And on top of that, Mats, and I know that you can have several thoughts simultaneously in your head, what stood out to you when you heard about the realities from Ukraine and the tough and important and resultful work that is done by our colleagues in the field in an ongoing war? But to start from the competence point of view.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But I will start to present the veterans coin to you for...
One by one. I'm not stealing them. No. So, I will give them to you.
Thank you so much.
For your struggle against the Russians and defending our freedom in Europe.
Thank you very much.
Героям слава.
You were not aware about that one.
No, but I really like coups like that, and this is the master of them.
Yes, because I had to think about what is the answer to the question. I think you have to. Sweden is a country that have lived in peace for many decades, And we have a welfare society. Everyone will live in a welfare society. And I think you are fighting for that. But then you're coming to, in this type of society, coming to that limit that everything is good. Nothing negative can happen. And for some decades we had, as you said, about 55,000 personnel, and excluding the civilians from authorities has been out. Probably something like 100,000. And the feelings is that when they're coming back to the normal society again, no one's care, no one's understand. It doesn't matter because you're going into the rolling tumble again in a normal society. And it's of course frustrating for those who is coming in the normal society again and say, well, I was been in Congo, I have lots of experience. What experience could you get from Congo to Swedish society? A lot of, but they don't understand that. But I think there is a shifting. And the shifting is that the open threat from Russia has now been more concrete in our society. And we're building up the total defense again. And that leads us to try to discuss with authorities in Sweden that we have a lot of people in our country, in our society, that has experience from situation that is not linear, but it's very things that's happening from seconds to seconds, and they had to care about how to live in that situation, how to lead in that situation. And that is important experience that a society needs to overcome a tough situation as war and a struggle against the living situation. So I think we have started that process, but we are not there. The armed forces, I will say, learned the lessons after the war in Bosnia when we went in there and learned a lot and then have taken care of it. But on low level, the soldiers level, the platoon commanders level, etc., but have no big experience according to operation, strategy, and things like that. And that is something that what you can learn about that is that you need to have personnel in conflicts all over the world, because lessons learned, what's happening there is good to have back in your own country when you start living in your welfare system, because it's not a standing point, so to speak.
No. And Mats, we have several things going on. We talked about an overview of the term veteran and what that entails today. And is there anything as a heads up when it comes to the Federation's priorities against that backdrop, and including something that we may not even be allowed to speak about, i.e. the establishment of something called a National Veteran Guard?
Beginning with a veteran guard, or the veteran farm, or what we would call it. I think it's important that we build up these facilities to have a focal point in Sweden where you can sampling personnel, medics, whatever, to have this focus and only discuss and have about the conditions that the veterans have. That is, and we're working for that. And I know the government is working for it. And I think it will going to be a part of the system ever soon. The other thing is to try to see as Mats number one said, in Sweden we always have a system. And now we try to extend the veteran strategy, and that is the vision in the system. And the extending veteran strategy is to include civil servants. From our point, it's very important. Civil servants, and even those officers, and soldiers, and seamen, and sailors that including in NATO operations. So we will providing the perspective of veterans. Another thing, I think, according to what you said about what is a veteran.
Yeah.
In Sweden, everyone thinks that a veteran is an old car, something like that, veteran car, you know, smelling diesel and oil, or something like that, and not an experienced person. When United States of America was in the Vietnam War, the middle age of the soldiers was 19 years. When you're coming home from a war and you are 19 or 20 years, you should start your adult life. And when you have been in war, in fightings, and then you suddenly understand, I have done everything in the top to overcome my life. And what in hell should I do now? The rest of my life. And that is, I think, very interesting mindset when you're talking about how to get the veterans a good status and a new push in the future of the life.
Well put. Thank you very much. And Mats, before you take your seat again, now you will have to assist me with my coup. Can you hold this for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And this symbol, the yellow ribbon, you can put your country's flag on it, is an international symbol that signals awareness, support and solidarity with veterans and international personnel. It is even an emoji in our iPhones. The yellow ribbon exists there. And for us, it's the ultimate expression of how proud we are of Swedish veterans, civilian veterans, police veterans, and military veterans. And we use it also for our campaigning in order to require funding directly for our Swedish veterans. So, to you, Ambassador, a yellow ribbon. Wear it with pride.
Thank you.
Please, a yellow ribbon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And a yellow ribbon to match the blue ribbon in your hair. Thank you. And thank you so much, Mats, also for the perspective of the civil society organization in Sweden that organizes more than 6,000 Swedish veterans from a number of international assignments, some of them very difficult. And we work in close cooperation with 4 other Swedish civil society organizations. And if I may then use our remaining minutes, returning to our standing panel, and when it comes to the core issue of competence and how to make use of that competence in your society, what can we learn from Ukraine? How are you currently doing on that important matter? Please, would you like to start? No?
Of course. I think there are a few dimensions that I would like to touch upon. First of all, Ukrainian veterans is a source of knowledge and experience and strength to actually improve the defense and security of the whole European continent. I think that Sweden, together with other European countries, have to engage today with Ukrainian veterans to bring them here and to learn and to work together. I think actually that Ukrainian veterans can come and teach a lot of soldiers here in Sweden, but also in many other European countries. And in that way, on the one hand, you will employ and you will give a hope and meaning to our veterans. But on the other way, you will benefit from that because this is the knowledge and experience you can you can't learn in any other place. So that's first. Secondly, of course, they are a very strong institution in Ukraine, as I see it, a very strong force of our resilience, if you want, and overall sovereignty, the good functioning of the society. Many of them, what Katja said, that when the war started, many people volunteered, right? Many people brought all their civilian competencies to the war. But now they can teach in Ukraine the rest of the society with the resilience, adaptability, and all other skills and knowledge they have of how to build our resilience even further and how to build a proper deterrence. Because yes, maybe the war will be over soon, let's hope, but Russia will not disappear. Putin will not fly to the moon. We will have them as our neighbor, not only to Ukraine, but to the European Union. So we have to make sure that we strengthen our state, our army, our society, enrich it with the experience of veterans. And finally, I think that, of course, we owe them till the end of our lives. Yesterday we had an event in St. Michael Church. And there were some pictures of veterans who visited Sweden for their rehabilitation. And I also was accompanied by my son. He was 3 years old. He looked at the pictures. For the first time, he saw so many people with prostheses. And he was asking me, Mom, what is that? Why uncle has these legs? And I was explaining to him why. And, it's very important for many generations in a row. We'll thank them forever to people who are fighting for us right now. So it's very important as well to build this platform of gratitude and appreciation. And one thing I wanted to do, you gave us these beautiful coins and signs. Actually, we have 6 people present here in this room. It's Alexander, Ivan, Alexei, Igor, Yuri, and Zoriana somewhere. And I think I don't deserve that, because I'm here and I'm trying to help, of course, as much as I can to my country. But it's them, and I wanted to give my coin to Alexander, who is over there, and who was helping me to cook borscht. There is also Ivan and other boys, and maybe you want to share with your coins. I think that would be fair. Ivan.
Дякую вам дуже.
We'll give our signs also to the rest of the group in the end. We'll just approach them, okay?
Yeah. And that is highly appropriate. And you don't have to worry for a second. There will be coins and yellow ribbons for everyone. And we can print them for the entire Ukrainian population as well, if you wish.
Sorry, we have Zoriana veteran. I also want to give her.
Yes, please.
And маленькі книжки. Це нам подарували, але ви цього заслуговуєте набагато більше. Це нам подарували, але ви заслуговуєте набагато більше. Добре, дякую.
We are deeply indebted for your service. Thank you, all of us. And Ambassador, you mentioned that Putin will not be on the moon, but I can imagine many places we could fly him to.
With your Griffin.
With the Griffin. We'll call them back. And rounding off a little bit, and I would really like to hear briefly also your perspective on the core issue of competence and acquired experiences under such extreme circumstances and how they can be useful for a society. And while you make that remark, please also think if there is a message that you would like to direct to the Swedish Almedalen audience here and beyond on the internet, including other key stakeholders. But first on competence from the two of you, and then we'll conclude with a wish or a pledge. Please.
Go ahead. I think there are more than 3 things, but I would talk about 3 of them. First of all, we are still fighting, and our veterans are the key holders of the decision. We are now, as Ukraine, very proud of technologies, but I think when we say technologies, we mean experience. Experience of our guys on the front line, and then how they change this experience into tools and into means to help them. And here the veterans are the key people because they don't only speak this bird language that all the technologians do, and they learn to do it very fast, but they also can translate from military language to civilian language to diplomatic language and back what we need, how we need it. And I would second the ambassador. They can share this experience not only within the Ukraine, but also with our friends in Europe. And that's something that you can't put a price on it, right? The second thing, we are in civil society, we are saying that we as civilians are learning to reintegrate. So we are not reintegrating our veterans because they are the holders of values, they are the holders of experience, they are the holders of the expertise, and it's not only military expertise, it's also the expertise how to protect freedom and what it means. What is life and how to value it in the face of destroyment and existential threat. And that's what we learn from them. So in our projects, it's not veterans who have to do something else for us because they did a lot. It's us who have to learn from them. How to build a new society based on the new existential threat that we have, and also on the new definitions of the values that they bring us in their novels, in their stories, in their initiatives, in their businesses. Coffee is never about a coffee, and we are trying to buy the ones from the veterans. And the third thing, which is the most important, and I think that's where the Swedish veterans can unite with Ukrainian veterans, it's to explain all of us what war is and what peace is. We have many definitions, and we may love them, but some of them are worn out. And to build a new one, I think the veterans are the ones who face those things. And if they would be kind enough to share with us, and if they would be kind enough to translate it to us, we may continue building the good society that you guys have here and that we want to have back in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was extremely important to hear that and reflect on that society is the one who has to change to be adaptable and receive. And I think when we talk about competence, we should not also to forget to see beyond the mask, beyond the pillar of a warrior, and beyond the understanding what is veteran. We need to see the human being inside that has dreams, that has been going into some direction, but the war has changed it significantly. We need to remember that these people has been studying for developing something, that they still hold their dreams and ideas, but some of them may not be as bright and strong anymore, like a light within us, we all have it. But if we feel, if we see, because many people say it is invisible traumas, well, mental traumas are very visible if you're attentive to that. So if you see this little light inside barely firing, we need to make sure that it's the society that keeps giving this light. So the candle inside can be bigger and then shine back again like everyone's supposed to. And I think in that case, it is fair to say that mental health and resilience is not any longer an issue of one individual and not even an opportunity operational challenge, it is a matter of a national security. And we just need to invest in that. We just need to understand and make sure that we feel good, that we are strong, that we can endure, so we can help others. And this light, like Swedish people love to put on the window, can light the way for others as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And while the camera is still on and while we are still gathered, any final wish or pledge?
So I would like to say two things. First, I really would like to support those initiatives that are here in Sweden helping our veterans. And we have representatives of two organizations here, Repower and Hug, I see Nadia as well. And they're doing an amazing job. And they have very good reputation already in Sweden. They are very well known. So I would like to encourage Swedish people, Swedish organizations to support them so that they can support our veterans even better. And second thing I want to say, while we had this panel, something happened here in a setting. So who is attentive? Our Ukrainian flag migrated from a Ukrainian table to a Swedish table. And I think I have the mandate to say this, that our Ukrainian flag feels itself very comfortable on the Swedish table because of the way you support us. And the second thing I wanted to say, thank you. Tack så mycket. Tack så mycket.
Tack så mycket.
And we have come to the end of a seminar, but we are unfortunately far from the end of what is going on very near to us and the tragedy that we are all experiencing. And this may strike you, it at least strikes me as a little bit peculiar, and it gave me goosebumps, what I will now share with you in concluding this seminar with a reference to the symbolism that you have used in your interventions. I was also thinking about the migrating flag and how appropriate it is. I will immediately after the seminar put it back on your table, and then we can go on like that. And now the tent outside is set for continued discussions, personal exchanges, determined Almedalen mingling, and a barbecue buffet generously hosted by Soldathemsförbundet. But first, a warm word of thanks to all our speakers, the foundation panel and the rotating panelists as well, all our guests from Ukraine that honor us with their presence, all the participants here and on screen, the Soldathemsförbundet and the head of this particular Soldathem, Leo, and our technical support team. So a warm hand of applause to everyone. And please allow me to end with a thoughtful quote from a book called Sunflowers, Ukrainian Poems on War, Resistance, Hope and Peace. And can you imagine the symbolism that is included in this quote with a reference to what we have just heard about telling what peace and war is actually about by being a candle that can illuminate our knowledge and that also symbolizes cooperation. This is the quote, and I haven't amended it with a single word or comma. The inspiration behind this particular book, which was published already in 2022, comes from the Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, who wrote as follows: "We who have touched war have a duty to bring the truth about war to those who have not had a direct experience of it. We are the light at the tip of the candle. It is really hot, but it has the power of shining and illuminating. The true miracle is not walking on water or walking even in the air, but simply walking peacefully on this earth. I wear glasses to be able to read and see on short distances. I don't need them to see the audience over there, but I was using them all the time by purpose today, and they were getting tangled up with the microphone all the time. I was wearing them because I have a blue eye. I had a ridiculous accident earlier in the week, and it gave me a small concussion even. But I didn't realize when I came here today that I would also wear them to conceal tears. I don't want to conceal tears. I will cry openly immediately after the seminar. Only 2 words remain to be said in this seminar. 2 committing and resounding words. 2 words that carry a deep meaning for all of us in the 3 world. 2 words that call for action, cooperation and solidarity. Slava Ukraina.
Herojam slava!
Thank you so much. If I may.
Thank you.